All right, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. On this episode, we have Danijel Velicki. Daniel is a Croatian entrepreneur who moved to the US, where he created and runs a successful company to help people achieve financial wellness. In this episode, we're going to hear some stories about life in Zagreb during the war, why he left, and how he beat the odds and started a successful business in the US. Daniel, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hey man, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. I read that you left Croatia with 40 bucks in your pocket and a Walkman. That's the that's a little dated nowadays, but I definitely want to talk about that. But before we get there, can you tell us a little bit about before you left? What was sort of growing up like for you in Zagreb?
Yeah, so and I gotta tell you, man, I watched all your podcasts and the people that you had on here, I was like, I'm pretty honored to be here, man. This is pretty great.
Oh
You
yeah,
had some amazing
definitely. It's
people, you had some amazing people on, so this is fantastic. Yeah, man, I mean I was born in 77, so I'm 45, and um obviously I think I lived like in the best years of Zagreb, which were the 80s and 90s, and we had awesome time. We had Kulušić, we had Best, we had all the best places to go, and things were pretty great. My dad was an auto electrician. My mom worked in Konzum. She kind of managed a couple of stores and stuff. So she came from the village right outside of Zagreb in Dubrava. So most of the summers I would be at my grandparents' place with no running water, just a well and cows and pigs and all that, and a lot of soccer every day with the guys. And then I went to I'm pretty much from like the center of Zagreb. Like it takes me 7 minutes walking from my apartment to the main square, right in Vlaška. So I went to elementary school there, and it was awesome. We played handball and soccer and all the things, and then got into the high school for tourism and hotel management, which was kind of like the one of the top schools, obviously, because Croatia is awesome and tourism wise. Um, and then yeah, I got an opportunity to do a foreign exchange program, and that's when I went to the U.S. So that's kind of like the little time. I was 18 when I left Croatia, so I lived quite a bit of time, obviously, in Zagreb. Was part of Midiken for a couple of years with Sion Bangura and Hamid and all those guys, and that was a blast. So I had an interesting Zagreb life. It was pretty great.
uh-huh. Well, I mean, having such a life like that, and then, going into 91, of course, with the war and everything happening there, was that something that sort of, jump started your interest into going to the US? Did you always plan on, visiting or going to the US?
It's funny, and it's an interesting story. I didn't know I was going to obviously end up here, but I always did really great in school. Me and my best friend Sylvia, we would compete for grades and stuff, and we both spoke really good English. And like he was kind of like the guy that always pushed me to like beat him, and he would beat me, and it was pretty awesome having him as the best friend. And he's an attorney now in Zagreb, and he went to school in London. But I don't know. Since I was a kid, in the village that I would go and spend time with my grandparents every summer. There was another couple of families that had also grandkids, but they were from Australia. And when I was little, like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, we would spend summers, and I would tell them to speak to me in English because one day I would be in America. When I was like 7, like it's
Wow.
for some reason it was always this thing that I wanted to do. And when I got married and my wife got to go back with me. She's American, and we got to go back. She got to meet the girls, the Julie and Susie, that were friends. And they told her, they were like, "Do you know that when we were little, like he would tell us to speak in English is because he was going to be in America one day." And somehow it happened, which is crazy. But I guess I always thought I was going to end up here for some reason. So whenever the opportunity came, I guess I just jumped on it.
Hmm. Were you like seeing things on, TV and the media about the US, or how did you
I don't
even
even know,
sort of
man.
get that
No,
idea?
so I never thought about it. And how it is back home, right? It's a lot about connections and people that and stuff. And we were lower to middle class. We didn't really have that much connection to things. I was studied hard, so I got into a good school and everything. But when the war started in 91, that was obviously tough, right? Living through that when I was 14, 15, 16, going to school. And I remember, my mom worked in Savica, this one little part, and like there were snipers that, she had to run to work between cars and stuff. Like that was just reality. But a year before I even thought about the foreign exchange program, I had friends, two people that did a foreign exchange student. One ended up in Maine, and I think one ended up in Michigan, and did it a year. And we, before email and all that stuff, we wrote letters. it was the old school way of communication, but they just had a great experience, and that was the first time that I actually thought this was possible. And I talked to my parents, and I was like, hey, there's this, two friends from our friend group are in foreign exchange in America, and they're having a great experience and time and everything else. So that's whenever we looked into it. I think I was sophomore in high school, so second year, and then we contacted the organization, the agency that was doing that, and we applied. And I know it was a good bit of money for us, back in, that was like middle of the war. Those, I think 94, whenever we applied. I ended up going in 95. Right at it was funny because it wasn't funny, but the war, ended when I woke up. August 5th was kind of the signing, everything. My birthday, August 6th, I woke up and all the Croatian, like, great songs, patriotic songs were playing, and it was kind of the end of the war, my birthday, which I was like, yay. And then August 11th, I was on a plane to America, like right after the war was over. So it was
Wow.
like, lived through all that stuff, and then then went to 1 year in high school here.
Huh. Was it I mean, obviously you had to get into the program and stuff and you were waiting. So that day was already set to leave on the 11th?
Yeah, yeah, just I had to buy tickets and stuff, talk to the organization, talk to the host parents and everything, and then just kind of everything was done, all the paperwork is done, and I came and to little town in West Virginia, which was a blessing in disguise. It was nothing that I ever saw on TV. Let's just put it that way. It was like a little tiny place. And I was like, and I lived in Zagreb, and we went to all over the place, and we went out till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And then you go into this tiny little town in West Virginia. I was like 3,000 people, like nothing. It was just like, dude, it was such a huge culture shock. It was crazy.
That's not what you expected when when you thought you were
Oh,
going to the US.
dude, there was no Schwarzenegger there or any, cool people in California or Florida or whatever. So yeah, of course, he wasn't what I expected. But
Was it hard for you at first?
yes, extremely, man. It was and it was again like it was such a crazy experience. So I landed in Pittsburgh, and this family picks me up, and they were just, interesting people. And I fall asleep in a car, and I wake up, and there's this, if you know what a double wide or a single wide is in America, it's like pretty much on wheels, and it's like tiny little built, not even built thing. And it just was different, man. I mean, I woke up in the morning and I called my parents, I called the organization, I called my host family, like everybody. I was like, I want to go home. Like, this is awful. I want to go home. Like I think I cried the first day, man. It was
Wow.
awful. But then things happened. I got to meet some people, and decided that I was going to stay. And it turned out to be really a blessing in disguise, because there was a thing that happened that allowed me to stay here and get a job and all kinds of stuff. Otherwise, I'm not sure that would have happened anywhere else.
Hmm. So, well, yeah, what exactly happened, if you don't mind, going into
Yeah, oh, absolutely, dude. That's the reason I'm here, and that's so I did foreign exchange, so I did senior year in high school, and in order to, most foreign exchange students, they have to come back and finish school in Croatia to get a real diploma, because we don't get enough credits in America to get a real American diploma.
Mhm.
So because of the high school that I went to, we had a whole bunch of English and German and French and everything, but then I also sent transcripts of the grades in 7th and 8th grade, because we had biology, we had chemistry, we had physics, like their high school level. We were learning in 7th and 8th grade. So I got credit for that. So I had to take extra English class and American history, and I got a real American diploma. So like all the credits, I had enough to graduate, which I was the only one out of 14 foreign exchange students that were in the program in our high school. So then I took my ACTs, SATs, did really well, and applied for colleges, and got accepted to multiple schools because of the grades that I had in Croatia and then how I did here. But of course, I didn't have any money. My parents were Croatian auto mechanic, auto electrician, and a retail worker. So I walked to a restaurant that it was the best Italian restaurant in all of pretty much West Virginia. And it was about 10 minutes south from Morgantown, which is WVU, West Virginia University. And I walked in and I asked for the owner, and our owner was Rocco Muriel. His dad came from Italy on a boat and started this little tiny restaurant. And I said, "Hey, Mr. Rocco, you don't know me. I'm from Croatia. My name is Daniel. We just finished the war. I'd like to talk to you for a couple of minutes." And he was like, "All right." So I went to his office and I said, "Listen, I want to stay in America. I don't have any money. I don't have a green card. I don't have a work permit. I don't have anything. But I'm the hardest worker you'll ever meet. And here's all my transcripts. Here's my acceptance letters to Fairmont State University, to WVU, to a couple other schools. And I would love for you to consider to give me a job under the table. I'll cook, clean, wait, like do whatever you need me to do for as many hours as you need me to, and pay for my school. And I'll pay you back with the work that I do and whatever cash I make." And the guy looked at me and said, "Okay." And that's just just the fact that somebody would do that for somebody. It always gets me, man, because he didn't have to do that, and he gave me the job, did all the paperwork and everything, and I worked for him for 4.5 years, 60 plus hours a week every summer. I never went back home. I went one time when my grandpa passed away, and graduated with double major with zero debt, paid everything in cash every summer that he paid for school. Met my wife there, and it was just, I'm not sure that anywhere else that would have happened. So like I owe my life to that guy, to that man. It's been, that was the reason I'm here.
Huh. Yeah, it sounds like that was really, the catalyst for everything else
Yeah,
that did happen.
I wouldn't have been able to. I don't think I would have been able to stay. And the hardest thing that happened, and I'm sure everybody has kind of like a point in their life where they wonder like what kind of decision they made and whatever it was. But I went back home that summer, and since I was little, my parents always said, "Hey, you got to get out of here." Post-war economy, all that stuff. I actually thought about going to Vienna University. They had an American program there, and I came home and I said, "Mom, Dad, I did it." Like they told me, like figure out a way to stay, and I was like, I figured out freaking, 1 in a million way to stay in America, and somebody's paying for my school, and I got a place and all this stuff. And I came back and they said, "We missed you. We don't want you to go. We want you to stay in Croatia." And it was the hardest thing. I didn't know what to say. I had a friend that lived in Vienna in Austria. I went to visit her for 3 days, walked around the streets of Vienna by myself, and just thought about like what to do. And I came back to Zagreb and told my parents, I was like, "I love you guys, but I can't live with a what if. Like, what if I go? What if I do something? What if, I wouldn't forgive myself?" So I told them that I had to go. So I did. It was tough because how our families are, right? Like we are extremely tight. Everybody's close. We so it was a hard thing to say. Really was. But I I think it was the right thing for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I want to talk about what developed from that, and the business that you started, which is Squire. But before I ask about that, I just want to bring up when you were talking about, that's a very old school way, to go up and ask for a job. Kids don't do that. People don't do that so much anymore. But one term that sort of came to my mind as you were talking about that is immigrant mentality. Because I know about Miocic, Croatian American fighter. That's where I first heard the term. He's got that immigrant mentality, they said. And that's sort of what came to mind when you were talking about, how you ask for the job, working 60-hour weeks, paying your own way, things like that. Do you ever feel like the world is becoming a more uncertain place? With political and economic instability on the rise, it's more important than ever to have a backup plan. That's why you should consider becoming a citizen of Croatia. With Citizen HR, the Croatian citizenship app, You can take control of your future and ensure that you and your family are protected no matter what happens. As a Croatian citizen, you'll have access to a stable and secure country with a growing economy and a high standard of living. But the process of becoming a citizen can be confusing and overwhelming. That's why Citizen HR is here to help. With our wide range of expert guidance and support, you'll have everything you'll need to apply for your citizenship. One user, Mariana, says, "I'm so glad I applied for Croatian citizenship when I did. I'm concerned about my family's future in Australia. I can't wait for us all to move to Croatia." Citizen HR made it all a breeze. So, if you're ready to take control of your future and ensure that you and your family are protected, download Citizen HR today. Because at Citizen HR, we believe that citizenship is not just a legal status, it's a huge leap for safety and security. So what are you waiting for? Head over to www.citizenhr.app today. Use the code ALLTHINGSCROATIA for 50% off any biography translations you order.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I ended up living together our last year in school, and you know, she can attest to, like, I would work 5 days a week. I took 25 and 26 hours of college credits, which is a boatload, my last 2 semesters, and like I would work till 3 o'clock in the morning on papers and everything, and then wake up and go to class at 8 and all day, and then go to work until midnight because I had to close, and then back to school. And it was just, you know, there was no other options, and I wasn't going to quit. I mean, that's not an option ever. And that really kind of transported into my grown-up life, because, you know, I just I never ever quit. You know, measure of a man or a woman is what it takes to stop him, and I still haven't found something that stops me. So, you know, when I'm a big believer. I read about a lot, and I'm a big believer in mentorship and coaching and everything. And when I was coming to America, I had this laminated little card that I had made, and I read Nietzsche, and one of the things that stuck with me was the saying of, "He who wants to fly someday must first learn how to stand and walk, and one cannot fly into flying." So that was with me for quite a bit. But then, since, you know, as I grew up in a business, and as I grew up as a man, I have two things now. My wall is not here. I would pull it out, but number one is I will never ever be outworked, and number two is a measure of a man or woman is what it takes to stop him. Because, you know, I think everything is achievable. It's just the 6 inches between our ears is what either stops us or guides us through whatever we're dealing with. And a lot of time people tend to give up too soon, maybe like a day before something was to happen. And I just haven't found a give up yet when it comes to just about anything. And I try to teach that to my kids. So I think that's pretty important. You know, even that first year in West Virginia and everything, it was easy to quit. It was easy to go back home, but I just was like, no, there's a reason I'm here. I'm just going to fight through it. I'm going to work through it. And it turned out to be, you know, absolutely worth it. But it took a lot.
I'm sure, yeah. Well, tell us what you achieved, you know, with that attitude. Talk about your business, Squire, a little bit. What is it, and why did you start it?
So it's yeah, I mean, so again, it just, you know, I was helped so much when I was in college. I mean, dude, I waited tables, and, you know, as the semester would start, I would have people that would come in, and, you know, I remembered people's names. I remember what they drank. I remember what they like to eat. So I was just, you know, very attentive, and I think a great waiter. And I think everybody should do waiting tables for a job. It's a great way to, like, learn about people and everything. But, like, there were people that would just show up and be like, "Hey, here's a, you know, a couple of $100 for books, and here's a, you know, a couple of $100 for," like, they were amazing. Like, when people found out that I was moving out of this one place into the other, and I had no bed, I had no table, I had no nothing. On a Saturday morning, 4 trucks of customers showed up. They found out where I was going. They called Rocco and delivered a bed, mattress, table, lamp, chair, freaking all kinds of stuff. And, like, just because they knew I was working my butt off to pay for everything, and they just wanted to help. People are amazing, man. If you know, I just believe that people are good. So when I looked at what I wanted to do in my life, I wanted to give back. I wanted to teach. I wanted to help. I wanted to empower. So I got into finance. For 22 years now, I've been doing personal finance. You know, own my own company. But then, as I was sitting across from people, America has certain systems and retirement and pensions and investments and insurance and all kinds of stuff. There's just no education whatsoever. So I'm talking to people that are well educated, intelligent, successful, but they just never got any information that they can make the right financial decisions for themselves. So I started writing curriculum and built Squire. And Squire in medieval times was the guy that would prepare the knight for battle. So that's where the name comes from. So it's a financial wellness, financial literacy online platform that we deploy as a employee benefit for organizations, for their members, for their employees. We got lucky. We have a contract with the United States Air Force, so we are rebuilding and redoing all their financial wellness stuff. Little guy from Zagreb and my team are taking care of all of the United States Air Force, which is amazing. So it's really another passion project. I just felt like, if I live in my passion and I'm really excited about what I do and what I've found to be like my kind of biggest value that I can bring, I just found that teaching and empowering people is what really excites me. So that's what Squire is. And, again, it goes to that immigrant mentality, right? I launched the company November 11th of 2019. And then, March 2020, the whole world shuts down. And, everything goes to crap. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like what the heck? We had great like 3 months and it was awesome. And then like zero, man, like just nothing. But again, I was just, working hard and talking to everybody, and I got lucky. I met an amazing investor that saw the value and the benefit and the potential in the company, and he invested and saved us. And then since then, just been working our butts off as a team and just growing and making more impact. And it's been fun and awesome, especially, as an entrepreneur. You never know if things are going to work, but I'm willing to try because, I always tell people, they're like, you have like your risk is different, perception of risk. And I was like, listen, from 14 to 18, I ran from snipers and bombs and Serbians and shit. Like now nobody's shooting at me most of the time, right? Hopefully not in the area. And like, what's the worst that could happen to me? Like I lose some money or something. Like I can always restart. I can always get a job, but like I'm willing to take my life in my own hands and bring my own destiny, because nobody's going to work as hard as I am and have as much passion about what I'm doing as I am, and building somebody else's life and business and everything compared to building mine. So, I've done the hard part. I left the country that I love. I miss Croatia. I miss Zagreb. I miss, Adriatic every day. But I also am lucky enough and work hard enough that I can go back and just see my friends and see my family and spend as much time there as I can. And that's what I'm working on right now with my coach to, our goal is to be at least month to two in the summertime and be on Brač and Bol and, on the beach and working a few hours a day. And because you can do that these days, doesn't matter geographic. I mean, look, where are you today?
Yeah, well, I'm in Zagreb now, actually.
Yeah, and I'm in Virginia, so it's like, who cares where we are, man? We can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So, so Squire is definitely a passion project that I really want to help people learn what they need to learn and better their lives. That's why I built it.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds awesome what you've been able to accomplish. You mentioned, Croatia and being able to go back and stuff. Have your kids been able to visit yet?
Oh, yeah, dude, come on. They can't wait. They're always asking, like, where
Oh,
are
so
we
you've
going?
been back. I
And so
started
we
thinking
we
Croatian there, but
we go every year. I go twice. Usually I go in January, February, just by myself to be a son, so I can spend time with my mom by myself. I don't have to translate. I don't have to, be a tour guide and all that stuff. So this year was the first year probably in 15 years that I wasn't there. First of the years is because I had a ACL surgery. Now I'm 45. I forgot that I shouldn't be playing basketball with 20-year-olds. so I popped my ACL and had surgery in February. So I'm just out of just doing PT and stuff. But so this was the first year that I didn't go in January. I usually come January, February for about 10 days. And then summertime, I think I think I just bought tickets. We're coming on the 2nd of August, and we're staying for 3 weeks. And we usually spend a little bit of time in Zagreb to see my mom, and my nephew lives in Zagreb, my aunt, everybody, and then we usually go to the beach. My best friend and a whole bunch of friends are in Bol and Baraj, so we always go there for at least a week, and then either like rent the catamaran or
Mhm.
go somewhere else, because my wife loves any place on the beach, and she always wants to go somewhere new. So like we've never been north. I've never taken her to Istra, um, like to Porto or Rovinj or something like that. So I'm thinking we might go up there this year.
Yeah, I've actually never been either. That's like one of the few parts that I have yet to visit, but I've heard it's super
Uh,
underrated.
it's so funny, man. Like people from Zagreb, we go to Zadar or Šibenik or the islands or whatever. Like we don't really go up to Istra. I don't know why. It's like all my friends, like everyone's like, why would you want to go to Istra? I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've heard it's like a hidden gem. I've heard it's super nice, and I definitely want to try this coming summer to go over there.
Yeah, I've been to when me and my wife got married, we did a week, went to Dubrovnik and then drove up the coast and went to Porridge for 3 days and then went to Venice and then came back. So she's seen Porridge, but that was like 20 whatever years ago. It's nice. It's really nice. It's just I feel like the weather like 97% of the time is like sunny and awesome because of the mountains and stuff that protect Zadar and Split and all that, compared to like every time I'm in Croatia I look at the weather and I'm like, it's kind of crappy up north, it's amazing down here.
Uh-oh. Yeah,
So
it's
you always
always
know you're going to have great weather.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Daniel, as we're sort of winding down here to the end of the episode, I got a few more questions, some quick
Yep.
questions, rapid fire to ask you. But before we do that, I want to give you a chance to, shout out, your website where people can, find a little bit more about you if they want to read the book that you released about, your story, everything like that. If you want to shout those out right now, you can go right ahead.
Yeah, the book is if you look at the just and I just want to touch on the book because it's so dear and near to my heart. My kids, on Saturday mornings I make palatine with Nutella, of course. And my kids were always like, Dad, how did you come to America? How did you do this? And so one of my friends is a ghostwriter, and I was like, hey man, we need to write a book just for my kids to learn like where I'm from and how it is. So that's how the book became. But I struggle with the title of the book, and my dad had a heart issue, and he passed away in 2014, sadly. But that summer I was able to take them. We came back to Croatia with the kids and everything, and we went to Zadar and got awesome apartment and just spent 2 weeks at the beach with them, which was just a blessing. But he and I went and got some some beers and pizza, and we were talking, and he was like, how are you doing? How's everything? Like, you look tired and stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's just a lot of work. And he was like, Daniel, you did something that one of a million could possibly do. And he was like, you made the impossible happen. So like, tomorrow you can wake up and do whatever you want. It was like, your life is a blank canvas. Like, you've done the hardest work already. So just paint a masterpiece for the rest of your life. Oh, sorry, I miss him a lot. So that's the title of the book.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
uh anyway, so that's what the name of the book came from. And but yeah, I mean, Squire, it's Sqwire, getsquire.com is the website. And it's like I said, it's just a passion project. You can find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm the only Daniel with a J Velicki on there. It's I'm pretty easy to find when it comes to that. There's not too many of me. So if anybody wants to look me up, I'm pretty simple to locate.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you definitely have a story worth sharing, a really, inspiring, awesome story. Before we go, I got just a couple of quick questions if you can answer them in, a sentence or two max. Um, First, two
Okay.
non-Croatian related questions. Advice for young entrepreneurs. 1 to 2 sentences.
Just do it. Just take the step. Most people have great ideas, they have great potential and stuff, but they're just too afraid of the unknown. The unknown is the exciting part, and you'll figure out everything. And the number two piece of advice is find somebody that's who you want to be later down the road. teach you, they'll help you, they'll identify the problems and the solutions and everything. I find so many people don't look for mentors and coaches. That's probably the least utilized resource that's out there, but people are afraid to ask.
Huh, good advice. Yeah. Favorite book?
Favorite book? Oh man, I read a boatload. I got to tell you, Phil Knight, the Shoe Dog, that book was awesome. Just to see somebody as great as the company is today, how close they were to not existing, and again that persistence and grit and grind and just never fail. That stuck with me. I enjoyed reading Elon Musk's book and how he came to who he was. Those are probably the two of the latest that I read that have been amazing, but I read like two or three a month, so there's a bunch.
I read the Phil Knight. I think Shoe Dog, it's called that a
You
long
know,
time
yeah,
ago. But
it's
yeah, that
such
was
a such a great book.
that's a good one. Yeah. Two more questions or three more. Favorite food when you're in Croatia?
Cevapi.
Of course.
Cevapi, my mom's sarma, and then my wife. Like, there's just people don't know how good our pizza is. Like, pizza is like the best anywhere I've ever had it. So I know that's not one. Cevapi is like the first, right? You have to. I like as soon as I get, I'm like, where are we getting cevapi from?
Uh, yeah, it's definitely it's hard to pick only one for sure. I think this one I could
Yeah,
probably guess, but Dinamo or Hajduk?
come on, man. I almost wore my Dinamo shirt today. You know.
Yeah, I should have told you. You know, you said before I started recording, you
I
didn't know I
know,
was gonna wear the checker.
right?
And final question, what makes Croatia special?
Oh, it's the best place in the world, man. And I love the fact that, now these days, when people find out where I'm from, two things that come out of their mouth. Either, oh my gosh, I've heard so many things, I've seen so many things, I can't wait to go, or we've been and it's the most beautiful place we've ever been to. So I try to explain this to people. The our culture, our like my wife, it took her a little bit to learn, but like in Zagreb or the beach on a Tuesday afternoon, you can be a little cafe and somehow you're there 2 o'clock in the morning, the doors are locked, the music is blaring, and everybody's your best friend. It's a party. Like, we're just such passionate nation, such passionate people. The music is a part of our soul. The Adriatic and so, like, there's just so much love and connection and passion in the way that we live life that's hard to explain to people. And that's like going back to Croatia, going back home. I can't imagine not going and touching our culture every year. It's just something that my body and my soul misses. Like, it's hard to explain to people, but we're different.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's definitely something you have to be here, to experience.
Yeah.
But Daniel, I want to thank you again so much for
Hey,
coming here on the podcast and sharing your story. It was an honor to have you on. I was wondering
like
if
I
you
said, man, being one of the people on podcast is awesome. Considering like who else you had, I'm like a nobody.
you're up there. You're up there now. No, you've definitely done some incredible things. I appreciate you taking the time. I was wondering if, as we head out here, if you could show your tattoo on your bicep, real
Oh,
quick. It
this
was
one,
pretty cool.
it's
And explain it.
yeah, Croatian quality, and then Glagoljica names of my kids, Maya, Noah, and Ella.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's awesome with the old script. Glagolica, that's cool.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Daniel,
Hey
thank
man,
you again
thank
so
you so
much.
much. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You as well.